As you settle into comfort and draw your blankets closer, let your mind drift gently back to another time, to ancient Rome, a world of marble temples, bustling markets, and secret gardens where emperors ruled with absolute power. In that distant world, beneath the endless blue of the Mediterranean sky, stands the shadowy figure of Caligula, the emperor whose name even centuries later still sends a shiver through the pages of history. Tonight, as you begin to close your eyes, allow yourself to follow the quiet, meandering river of Caligula's story, a tale woven with both darkness and odd fascination, carefully told, not to excite, but to soothe your mind into deep and restful peace. Long before Caligula became emperor, before his reputation for madness and terror, he was simply a child named Gaius, growing up in the swirling tides of Roman power. Imagine him, a young boy among rows of stern soldiers on campaign with his father, General Germanicus. The soldiers, amused at the sight of Gaius in his tiny soldier's boots, dubbed him Caligula, meaning little boots. At this time, the name fit the boy, a source of gentle laughter for the battle-hardened men who marched for Rome. But as with so many things, innocence would fade, and the world would shift. His childhood, though, was never secure. His father, a favorite of the people, died mysteriously, leaving Caligula and his family exposed to the chill winds of imperial suspicion. His mother and brothers became entangled in the traps of palace conspiracy. The Emperor Tiberius, cold and secretive, tightened his grip, exiling or executing those he saw as threats. Caligula, still only a child, survived by masking his true feelings, learning early how to be silent, how to present a mask to the world. Tiberius summoned him to the far-off island of Capri, a place known both for its breathtaking beauty and its sinister secrets, an island palace perched above sapphire waves, where whispers carried farther than the sound of the sea. There, Caligula spent his adolescence among courtiers, spies, and those who bowed constantly to the emperor's will. He learned to watch and wait, not knowing whether each day would be his last, a childhood of careful steps and quiet observation. When Tiberius finally died in the year 37 AD, rumors whispered that the emperor had been smothered by his own men. Immediately, all eyes turned to Caligula, who was just 25 years old. He was swept onto the throne with a rushing wave of hope. The Roman people remembered his glorious father and imagined a new age of happiness. Upon his arrival, joy filled the city. Caligula was hailed in the streets, coins with his image were minted, and celebrations stretched into the night. For a moment, Rome felt lighter, as if the city itself could finally breathe. Caligula seemed to fulfill their hopes. He abolished harsh laws, recalled those exiled under Tiberius, and offered generous gifts of money and food to the public. Gladiatorial games and theatrical spectacles dazzled the eyes of Roman citizens. Hopes rose, perhaps too high, for a golden era that, sadly, would not last. After some months, Caligula fell suddenly, terribly ill. The true details are lost to time. Some said it was a fever, others, poison. Whatever the cause, when he finally recovered, the shadow of death seemed to linger where he walked. The man who returned to the throne was altered. Something deep inside had fractured. His moods became wild and unpredictable. Laughter would mix with sudden outbursts of rage. His sense of reality seemed to slip. Emperors before him had played at being gods, but Caligula meant to be worshipped in earnest. He demanded that temples rise in his honor, and dressed himself in shining costumes of Jupiter or Apollo. The senators, learned stoic men, were forced to kneel before him, playing along, nervous and wary. As the months rolled by, his actions poured confusion and dread into Rome. He issued strange orders, once commanding a bridge be fashioned across the Bay of Baiae so he could ride his horse over the waves. He lavished absurd amounts of gold on banquets and spectacles, while the city strained under taxes to fund his whims. Senators and noblemen were publicly mocked, humiliated, and sometimes executed at the flick of his hand. Behind closed doors, rumors of cruelty multiplied, though the line between truth and myth, even among ancient writers, can be hard to find. Stories tell us that Caligula adored his horse, Incitatus, bestowing upon the animal a marble stall with purple blankets, and even threatening to make him a high official, just to ridicule the Senate he despised. Some claim he replaced the faces of ancient statues of gods with his own image, asserting his divinity, or perhaps only his own entertainment. The ordinary people, swept once by hope, now lived with fear skittering along the edges of daily life, knowing small irritations or perceived slights could mean disappearance. The city grew tense, but time passed slowly in those days, as it does in the hush of night. Caligula's reign, though only 4 years, must have seemed like an endless succession of uncertainties to those who waited each day for news. Even palace walls, built of stone and gleaming with gold, could not keep out the growing sense of danger. Eventually those nearest to him, his own guards, the Praetorian Guard who had been sworn to protect the emperor, decided that enough was enough. Tired of humiliation, afraid for their own lives, they conspired in secret. One ordinary day, as Caligula made his way through an underground passage in the palace, they came upon him and struck. With their mission complete, they ended not just his life, but a chapter in Rome's story marked by darkness. Though the Senate tried to erase his traces, destroying his statues and scattering his images, the legend of Caligula only grew. He became a story of a child surrounded by power, hardened by tragedy, warped by fear, and ultimately undone by the very forces that had brought him to the throne. His tale remains, part warning, part mystery. Now, as you nestle deeper into stillness, know that the sounds of ancient Rome are hushed, its marble halls empty, its torches long since extinguished. The story of Caligula, with all its strangeness and sorrow, is finished, a quiet echo beneath the stars. Let your breath slow and your imagination fade, drifting from tales of emperors and empires into peaceful, gentle sleep.